What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Other Guys on the Badlands Podcast Network. I'm Jake Chatsky, joined as always by Paul Kilgallen. Getting you this pod a little late today because we're both still recovering from the 4th of July. Paul, how was your 4th?
It was good, man. We're back to normal here on different time zones, trying to
Sad.
make it work, which is why we're coming out on a Monday night. All good things can't last, I guess. But fourth was good. Happy that the Mets were able to rehab what happened with the Yankees earlier this season and split the series at 3-3. And yeah, all things are good, man. How about you?
It was good. You had to throw that in there. That's fair. All fair. It was good. Smoked some wings for the 4th. Spent the day at the beach. Ended up making some pizzas on the uni yesterday. Making Paisan Joe very proud, I'm sure. Although he probably, wants it on like a real oven or something like that. But it was good. We had a very, very fun time for the 4th, and we got a very fun topic for you guys. Paul and I have been talking about this for like a week now. This is like the only way I can kind of describe this draft is it's like the Matthew McConaughey Interstellar meme, where we are going to go back and draft our top 10 Jets draft picks we want to redraft. So it's a redraft, not of any particular year or anything, but just of all the Jets draft picks. If you can, knowing what you know now, go back and change a singular pick, what would you change? Now, Paul and I are each going to draft 5 picks. We did have some caveats for this draft. First, you got to say who you're replacing the pick with. The player you're swapping in has to be within 32 picks of your original pick slot. So you can't, take a player from the second round and swap them with a guy who was, 45 picks later, whatever. It's got to be, we're giving some credit to the rest of the teams in the league that you got to draft a guy who's in a similar draft slot. Not necessarily that you would want to go so far down the line anyway, but it just made it a little more challenging for us. And then one final caveat, in each of our top 5s, we have to do at least one pick that is outside of the first round, because we could sit here for hours and just replace all the Jets' first round draft picks. And also it makes it a lot easier when there's a lot of really good players within 32 picks of that slot. So we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of a challenge. We got to pick one pick outside of the first round. Paul, you ready to get this started? I'm giving you the first pick in this one.
I am ready to get this started. I think one of the things when I was prepping for this one, I was like, holy shit, Joe Douglas was so bad. He was so bad.
I didn't know if it was just like an ageism thing or like, it being fresh in my mind, but I was trying to like work in some less modern Jets, and I was just like, there's too many to pick from the last, 5-10 years.
Agreed. So that's what became obvious to me. I asked to have the first pick in this one because I needed to make sure that I stay on brand and I don't draft Zach Wilson. Because I never wanted to draft Zach Wilson in the first place. I was a Sam guy all the way. Who knows if I was right or wrong, right? He had a good year last year for the Vikings. We'll see what he does with the Seahawks. We'll never really know if that was the right pick, but what I can say with certainty is that if they took Penei Sewell at 7, Jamar Chase at 5, Fields at 11, I think we're in a better position with any of those 3 picks. That all being said, my pick is Penei Sewell at number 2, or maybe you slide down a couple picks and try to get something back. But regardless, the player that I wanted to leave that draft with was Penei Sewell, right? Joe Douglas told Sammy D and his parents that he was going to protect him, and he didn't. He shipped him out, and that would have been the first pick of a few that would have put them in a better position to have the offensive line rebuilt in a quicker way. And like I said, I don't think somebody becomes a Samsexual. I think they are born a Samsexual, and I can't deny who I am. And so for that reason, I'm still defending Sam, and I'm not drafting Zach Wilson. I'm taking Penei Sewell.
I knew it was coming. I almost was going to, like, if you didn't take it, I was almost just going to swoop you there for that. Yeah, I had it. You made a good argument with Chase too. I didn't even because the argument we've always talked about was like building the wall and going for Penei. Like with the way Jamar Chase has developed, like either one of those picks would have been great to, instead of Zach. I think it's pretty clear Zach was the wrong pick, and it, set the franchise on a course
Yep.
That led to all, the Mike LaFleur firing and a whole bunch of other things. Aaron Rodgers becoming a Jet. None of that happens without that pick. So I think that's a really good 1-1. I'm going with my first pick being outside of the first round. Uh, Again, another interstellar moment. Who knows how many other picks? And I could have taken the cop out and just put the player that we all wanted on this team, but I gotta take it back a year earlier and do the thing that everyone knew at the time was, what the fuck are you doing? I'm getting rid of the Christian Hackenberg pick. I wanted to swap him with Dak Prescott, but based on the caveats that we put in for ourselves, Dak went too late in the draft. If I wanted to do another quarterback, I could do Jacoby Brissett, but even then, like, if we're passing, I'm not spoiling any picks, but if we're passing on Mahomes the next year because we just drafted a quarterback, like, I don't necessarily know that it matters if it's Hackenberg or Brissett. So what I went with was, instead of Hackenberg, I'll take Joe Tooney, who went 28 picks later, ends up hurting the Patriots as well, and more importantly, corrects what ended up being like a franchise altering wrong with the Hackenberg pick that had so many ripple effects. So getting my non first round pick off the board right away and correcting a massive, massive oversight and getting Christian Hackenberg off of this team.
Good call. It's a really good call. I explored including Hackenberg in mine in some way, shape, or form. But like you, I kind of struggled with the 32 pick limit in that one a little bit. And Tooney's a great pick. He's definitely, of the players within reach there, he's the best pick. So that's hats off to you. Good job. I'm gonna stick in the first round now, since you've already exhausted your not first round pick, and I'm gonna go taking Jamal Adams at 6 and passing on Mahomes at 10 and Watson at 12. Full disclosure, in the moment, I would have taken Watson. That was where my head was at the time. He was coming off the years at Clemson where he was in the Natty against Alabama. And I mean, man, he was incredible. And he seemed like a great guy. We were all wrong about that, but he seemed like a really great guy at the time. And so I probably would have taken Watson in the moment, but since this is a hindsight thing and we have the benefit of hindsight, I'm taking Mahomes, who went 10th to the Chiefs, instead of Jamal Adams at 6. An interesting note here is that in 2017, all of the following players were first round picks of other teams and eventually played for the Jets. Saul Thomas, Corey Davis, Jamal Adams, Mike Williams, Hassan Reddick, Gerard Davis, and Tack McKinley. So the Jets basically got like a quarter of that first round anyway.
Yeah.
But not the two that we really should have had, which were Mahomes or Watson.
Yeah. I mean, your pick and my pick kind of go hand in hand, right? Because if they don't have Hackenberg, you assume they're going quarterback in that draft. They're probably doing something ridiculous and trading up for a guy too. But so it could have. I agree with everything you were saying. I was hoping that I was going to be able to just pull off the Adams for Mahomes swap and have those two be the first two picks on my board. I got some other quarterback picks up my sleeve, stuff that I don't think you're necessarily going to take, so I can save it for later. But that is when I texted you about this draft, I was like, the obvious 1-1 is taking Jamal Adams and swapping him with Patrick Mahomes. And like, neither of us took him 1-1, but I think we were a little too Jets ingrained to not do that, but it's a hell of a pick. I am going to take a pick that I don't think you would see coming from me. But I think this is obviously the players involved, very specific, but also I think this started an era of the Jets thinking that they knew something that the people did not, and they were just dead wrong. I'm swapping Kyle Brady for Warren Sapp. Again, correcting wrongs. The fans in the building were chanting, "We want Sapp, we want Sapp." Everyone knew it was the right pick, and the Jets still couldn't pull the trigger. I'm doing that. It also, interestingly enough, this was a story that has been told multiple times, but like Howie Roseman wanted to be GM of the Jets and was in his, I think he went to Florida, his Florida dorm room, like yelling at the TV for the Jets taking another tight end, inspiring him to go on and become a GM in the NFL and not work for the Jets. So This had countless ripple effects across the NFL. But yeah, I mean, obviously they know something that we don't. They didn't. And this was a humbling reminder that they didn't. So I'm correcting this mistake here now.
Yeah, so that's 1995. I had that
Yep.
as number one on my list. I didn't think you're right. You surprised me a little bit. I didn't think you would reach back that far. But I had this at number one overall on my list. So that was 1995. Kyle Brady at 9 over Warren Sapp at 12. An interesting note in that draft is that the Jets ended up taking Hugh Douglas at 16.
Yep.
So I think there was a little bit of like, well, we still got the defensive lineman, but imagine having Sapp or Douglas together on the defensive line at that time. Or Ty Law went at 23 in that draft. So imagine having Ty Law and Aaron Glenn playing cornerback together, and maybe just Warren Sapp and not Hugh Douglas, who they let walk in 4 years anyway to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, right? And so you could have left that draft with, let's say, 2 Hall of Famers in Warren Sapp and Ty Law, and instead you left with Kyle Brady, who eventually walked to the Jaguars and was a mediocre player, and Hugh Douglas, who was a good pass rusher, but you let him walk after his rookie contract anyway. So yeah, that's a big one, man. That one's hard to get past.
All right, you're up again.
So I'm going to keep it in the 90s. I'm going to go back to 1997, which was Bill Parcells' first year. And I hate to criticize the god Parcells for everything he did for this franchise. But what the situation was that year was that it was 1997. Peyton Manning could have come out, but he decided not to because he did not want to go number one overall to the Jets. So that's something both Manning brothers have in common, is trying to manipulate where they went when they came out of college. And Peyton Manning famously just said, like, basically, I'm not playing for the Jets and I'm going to go back to Tennessee again. And so what the Jets ended up doing was trading out of that number one spot, where the Rams eventually picked Orlando Pace, a Hall of Fame offensive tackle, back to number 6. At number 6, they traded out again. And at number 6, Walter Jones, another Hall of Fame tackle, went to the Seahawks. And what they did is they went to 8, where they took a linebacker in the first round at number 8 in James Farrier, who was an okay linebacker for the Jets, but they let him walk after his rookie contract to Pittsburgh, where he had the best years of his career, and they got pretty much nothing out of that. Now, that trade had a whole bunch of picks in it, but you were at number 6, you were at number 1, you were at number 6. Hall of Fame offensive tackles went in both of those slots, and you passed on both of them. Now, the only really good offensive lineman the Jets had that year was Jumbo Elliott, who was really at the end of his career at that point. The rest of the line was a list of no names, and they did eventually kind of fix the line going into the 1998 season. So you could say, like, hey, not a big deal or whatever, but when you look at what you got back in that, and it was essentially just James Farrier, who you let walk anyway, that's a tough one for me to swallow. So I'm staying at number 1, and I'm just taking Orlando Pace.
Yeah, can't go wrong with that. I was wondering if you were between staying at 1 or staying at 6, because at least if you stay at 6, you end up with the Hall of Fame tackle and whatever draft picks they got back. But yeah, I mean, offensive line is going to be a theme for the Jets throughout all these redraft picks. And so I think that's a hell of a pull. That's a good one. I do not think I would have gone that far back for my offensive line pull, specifically because of the pick I'm about to take right now, which is so fresh in my memory that I got to have it on my list. 2020 draft, the Jets were between taking an offensive lineman or a receiver. Any of CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, who really wasn't in the conversation, it was mostly CeeDee Lamb, over Mekhi Becton would have been a better pick. But I'm going the guy that we were all screaming at our televisions to take, and that's Tristan Wirfs. So I want Tristan Wirfs on the Jets, correcting the wrong there. I think Joe Douglas got so caught up in the upside athleticism that he just didn't take a surefire tackle prospect, and he spent the rest of his tenure trying to correct that mistake. So I'm going to get it right for him immediately out of the gate. We're going with Tristan Wirfs.
Great pick. Can't argue with it at all. One of the picks that made me the most mad in my kind of adult Jets fandom. That was the year that we were in the kind of the real heat of COVID at that time, right? And so traditionally, me and my friends would always get together for a draft party, and it's a bunch of Jets fans and a bunch of Giants fans. So we'd all laugh at each other based on their shitty reactions to the picks. And so that year, me and my friends did a Zoom call, because that's what everybody was doing at the time, with Zoom calls, right? and somebody was recording the screen when the Jets picked Becton, and I lost my fucking mind. I went crazy. I went absolutely crazy in my apartment. And so somewhere that recording lives. I don't know who has it, but it's not good, and hopefully it never sees the light of day because I was pretty mad. So good pick there. I think interestingly, you could also note in 2020, and I'm not going to pick this one because there's just too many that are more valuable than it. But in 2020, after they didn't take that receiver in the first round, everybody obviously we needed to take a receiver in the second round. The Jets were sitting at 48, and they traded down twice, and they slid down to 59 when Denzel Mims was on the board the whole time. And everybody, to be fair, most people wanted to take Denzel Mims at 48, right? And so they went down to 59. They got Mims anyway. But in that slide, what you missed out on, Chase Claypool, who's whatever. Chase Claypool sucks, but at the time, maybe would have been a good pick. Jalen Johnson, who has turned out to be a pretty good corner for the Bears. Jalen Hurts went in that range, who is a pretty good quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback now at this point for the Eagles. And Van Jefferson, who I think is more of a serviceable wide receiver than Denzel Mims is, right? So all in that 11 pick slot, those four players went, where you could have done that instead of sliding back to take Denzel Mims and recouping a bunch of picks that you really didn't do anything with anyway. So
as we will continue to show throughout this redraft.
As we will continue to show, correct. So for my next pick, I might be bending the rules here a little bit.
Okay.
But in 2021, which was the year after the Zach Wilson, phenomenon or problem. I'm sorry.
2022?
It was no 2021.
Okay.
It was the same year as Zach Wilson. I had it labeled incorrectly here. So 2021, the same year as Zach Wilson. They don't take Tristan Wirfs the year before. They don't take Penei Sewell, right? So we're still badly needing offensive line. And I went into 2021 basically circling two guys that I wanted in the later rounds. One was Creed Humphrey and one was Trey Smith. And Trey Smith was going to slide way, way down because he had a heart condition that people were unsure of when he was at Tennessee. And so in the 6th round, Trey Smith went at 226 as part of a 4-pick deal to move down in the 5th round and up in the 6th round. The Jets picks out of that trade were Jason Pinnock and Jonathan Marshall. The Chiefs picks were Noah Gray and Trey Smith.
Wow.
So I'm going to say I want the Jets to stick at 226, and I want them to take Trey Smith because I think that's insane value there. The other one that I was going to include in this, but it's too much bending of the rules, I can't, was that they took Elijah Moore at 34, and they could have taken Creed Humphrey, who eventually went at 63 to the Chiefs anyway. So they got absolutely jobbed by the Chiefs here, who took basically everything that I wanted, and they got a pretty good tight end out of it in Noah Gray, when the Jets could have just had everything right there on the table for them and taken Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and Noah Gray and had 3 positions solved that took them a little while longer to solve after that.
That's a hell of a call out. Obviously the Trey Smith one too. I feel like everyone was wondering who was going to take the swing. And medical history aside, obviously he had the blood clot issue at Tennessee, and you never know. But that is what the 6th round is for. That is what you are. Especially when what you're getting back is you're getting an extra 5th round pick. Later rounds of the draft, they're all dart throws. You're gonna and the Jets have taken tackle offensive line prospects with medical history in the past. And so Trey Smith seemed like the type of guy that you wanted to do that for. And the fact that they didn't, and now I have to hear about it every weekend is I'm glad you took that one. All right. So we're at, is this my 4th pick or is this my last one?
This is your 4th pick.
Okay. I feel like I should save one because I don't think you're going to take it, but I might as well just do it now because I don't know that you'll take anything else that's on my list. No, I'll swap this one. 2010 draft. Getting rid of Kyle Wilson, and I'm taking Rob Gronkowski, who went less than 32 picks later. He's obviously a 2nd round prospect, so it's not a 1-for-1 1st round pick swap. This drastically hurts the Patriots. And B, you end up getting a tight end, a position we've needed for decades, it feels like, since Dustin Keller. for, the key Sanchez era, like you get him another receiving target. That was when the two tight end offense was really starting to become very popular in the NFL as well. And no better tight end could you pair with the later years of Dustin Keller than Rob Gronkowski. And so I'm taking Gronk. I'm taking him off the Patriots. I'm getting us a Hall of Famer, and I'm getting rid of the Kyle Wilson pick.
Fantastic pick. Can't imagine what would have happened, right? And it's not only that, but like the Patriots aren't the ones that revolutionized the two tight end system. They lose the other tight end pretty quickly because of what happened with him. It puts them in a weird spot for a few years. So that's another one that could have massive ripple effects there. And man, I mean, Gronk, he would have been so likable as a big dumb jet. But hey, it is what it is, right? So I have three left on my board that I have the opportunity to pick from here. Two of them involve quarterbacks. I'll mention what they are after this because I already did the Mahomes swap, so I'm not going to do another quarterback. And I'm going to go with something a little controversial, probably more recent than you would have thought. In 2021 again, I'm very 2021 heavy here. They traded the 23rd pick, the 66th pick, and the 86th pick to move up to number 14 in the first round. AVT. I like AVT a lot. I really do. He's missed a lot of time with freak injuries. And Christian Darrisaw, who ended up going at that 23 slot, has been pretty good. Right? Yeah. So what I'm saying is you take Darrisaw at 23, you take Milton Williams at 66, and then you take Nico Collins at 86. Nico Collins went at 88. Milton Williams went at 73. And now you have, instead of AVT, Christian Darrisaw, Milton Williams, and Nico Collins.
Yeah, I mean, that's a no-brainer.
That's a pretty good swap, right? So as much as I like AVT.
I thought that this was where you're going when you brought 2021 up the last time, too. And I think, obviously with the benefit of hindsight, you can make all three of those picks. But I also think, given injury history, given, again, love AVT, but given that you had to give up extra picks to make the move, I think sticking and picking with Darrisaw is just the play no matter what. Even if you can't handpick, we're getting this guy in the second and this guy in the third, and they're all going to be hits. Like, understanding that those later picks are even more of a crapshoot, I think you just illustrated what could have been. And also, like, you end up with a player who has been a stout tackle for the Vikings for the last, 4-5 years. So I thought that this was where you were going before. I will now make my final pick, which I saved to the 5th round only because I knew you weren't going to do it. And I was between two guys for this swap, but I'm going with one who you think sucks, and I'll tell you why. But I'm swapping the Sam Darnold pick. I was between either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. I'm going with Josh Allen. Here's why. I think Lamar, who is unbelievable and would continue to be unbelievable, I think Lamar is also the benefit of a coaching environment that has been set up for his success, where John Harbaugh completely redid the entire offense to be about Lamar. I don't necessarily know that the Jets, even if they nailed the pick right, would fully commit that hard. Whereas Josh Allen was in a shittier situation in Buffalo and persevered through it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I wanted this to happen on draft night. We were all anti-Josh Allen on this Badlands podcast network. But in hindsight, that was the right pick. I knew you'd never make the move, so I could save it to my 5th round. And again, a lot, as is the theme with my draft, I'm taking away from the Bills. So I'm worsening our division to make the Jets better. Taking Josh Allen, putting him on the Jets at number 3 overall.
I continue to maintain that whatever black magic happened to Josh Allen in between year 2 and year 3 does not happen with the Jets. He just, what he was as a rookie, that's what he is with the Jets for 4 years. And then he goes and maybe he figures it out somewhere else, but he's never that with the Jets. I don't know what happened. I don't know what kind of deal he made with the devil, but I don't think it happens here. I will note that of the 4 picks that they traded to go up to from 6 to 3 in that draft, and I had it on my list here, so I wasn't going to definitely not pick it. It was unlikely, but if you painted me into a corner, I would have taken it. The 4 picks that happened are Quentin Nelson, very, very fucking good guard. Braden Smith, who's another very fucking good guard, Rock Ya-Sin, who's whatever, he's an okay DB, and Dallas Goedert was the last.
Oh, wow.
The Colts flipped that pick to the Eagles, who eventually
Eagles.
took Dallas Goedert. And another interesting note about that 2018 draft is they traded the pick that would eventually become Tyler Conklin to the Vikings for basically nothing. They got back 2 late round picks that they used for Trent Cannon and Forlanosu Fatukasi. And so a lot of weird kind of hovering things in that draft.
Yeah.
But I
I
think
guess,
if I were to do your pick straight up, I would have taken Lamar.
yeah, and I was toying back and forth too. I think part of it is the having to have an entire offense built around Lamar. Not saying anything about Lamar the player. He's a 2-time MVP. It's just the Ravens have committed to that, and I trust Josh Allen to get through the Jets bullshit more than I trust Lamar. Is basically what it comes down to. I also think, to your point, like if I'm playing your game, don't trade up from 6 to 3. I would be a little worried in that scenario that someone scoops us, and because the Colts were trading that pick.
Yeah.
So maybe the Bills jump all the way up to 3, and who knows what they give up, and the Jets don't get that opportunity. But yeah, if I could stick and pick at 6 and know that Allen went 7 and the Jets have the opportunity to take him at 6, I'll do that every day. And if Allen goes, then I'll take Lamar. That's fine.
All right. I know you got to go. The last pick I'll throw out here is an honorable mention that I didn't have the heart to do it, was taking Ken O'Brien at 24 in 1983 and Dan Marino went at 27.
Yeah.
The reason I didn't do it is because fuck Dan Marino. The Jets own Dan Marino. And Ken O'Brien, he was fine. It's just that Dan Marino went 3 slots behind him. That's why he's looked at the way he's looked at. He was okay, right? And so I didn't have the heart to put it on my list, or to make the pick, but it was on my list.
There are so many honorable mentions. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know what picks we missed. There are too many to count. I'll shout out one quick one. Ardarius Stewart before Chris Godwin. That was my classic example I sent to you of like, here's what we're not doing in this. Here's what we're doing for a non-first round pick, but I'm running late for something, so I got to hop. We will talk to you guys again next week. Thanks so much for listening. Peace.
Peace.